He was taken as a prisoner. He was rising as the tribe's new leader. But when she overheard a secret plan to destroy him, everything changed. Why would she risk her life for a man who once belonged to her captors? And what happens when the truth puts both their lives in danger? Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The Texas plains stretched endlessly beneath a merciless sun that turned the horizon into shimmering waves of heat. It was the summer of 1867, and the Comanche territory remained one of the last bastions of resistance against the relentless western expansion. Among the rolling grasslands and scattered mesquite trees, a band of Comanche warriors had established their camp near a bend in the Colorado River, where cottonwood trees offered shade and the water ran clear and cold. Sarah Mitchell had been with the Comanche for 3 years now. Captured during a raid on a settler wagon train when she was 19, she had watched her previous life fade like morning mist under the Texas sun. Her golden hair, once carefully brushed and pinned, now hung in 2 long braids decorated with small beads and feathers. Her pale skin had tanned to a warm bronze, and her hands, once soft and unused to labor, had grown strong from tanning hides and gathering wood. She wore a deerskin dress that reached her knees, decorated with intricate quill work that she had learned to create from the elder women of the tribe. At 22, Sarah had learned the Comanche language fluently, had adopted many of their ways, and had earned a measure of respect among the people who had once been her captors. She was known as White Dove among them, a name given by the chief's wife before she passed from fever 2 winters ago. Sarah tended to the cooking fires, helped with the children, and had proven herself useful in treating wounds and illnesses with remedies she remembered from her mother and new techniques learned from the tribal healers. The camp stirred with unusual tension that morning. The great war chief Iron Bear had been killed in a skirmish with cavalry soldiers near Fort Griffin 2 weeks prior. The tribe was in mourning, but more pressing matters demanded attention. A new chief had to be chosen, and the decision would shape the future of their band. There were whispers and heated discussions around every fire, debates about who possessed the wisdom and strength to lead them through these dangerous times. Sarah carried a clay pot filled with water from the river, her moccasined feet making soft sounds on the packed earth. As she walked past clusters of warriors, she caught fragments of conversation. Some favored Red Hawk, a fierce warrior of 40 winters who had counted many coups and led successful raids. Others spoke of younger men, untested but eager. The name she heard most often, however, was Kicking Wolf. Kicking Wolf was 27, tall and powerfully built with broad shoulders and a lean, muscular frame that spoke of countless hours on horseback and in combat. His face was striking, with high cheekbones, an aquiline nose, and dark eyes that seemed to see through pretense and deception. A long scar ran from his left temple to his jaw, a mark from a grizzly bear he had killed with only a knife when he was 17. His long black hair was often decorated with eagle feathers, symbols of his bravery and spiritual strength. Sarah had noticed Kicking Wolf from her first days in the camp. He had been one of the few warriors who had not treated her with outright cruelty. While others had mocked her stumbling attempts to speak their language or perform tasks, Kicking Wolf had watched silently, his expression unreadable. Once, when she had fallen while carrying water, spilling it across the ground, and another warrior had raised his hand to strike her, Kicking Wolf had intervened with a single sharp word. The warrior had backed away, and Kicking Wolf had continued on his way without acknowledging her grateful look. Over the years, their interactions had been limited but significant. He had brought meat to her fire when hunting was good, always presenting it to the communal area but somehow ensuring a portion reached her. During the harsh winter when many fell ill, he had provided extra buffalo robes without explanation. Their eyes met across campfires in passing moments, and Sarah felt something stir within her that she had thought died with her old life. Now, as the council of elders prepared to meet, Sarah set down her water pot and began preparing cornmeal cakes on a flat stone heated by the fire. She worked mechanically, her mind elsewhere. She had learned much in her years with the Comanche, including how to listen without appearing to do so, how to understand the currents of tribal politics. An older woman named Running Stream approached, her weathered face creased with concern. Running Stream had been kind to Sarah from the beginning, teaching her the language and customs, protecting her from the worst of the other captives' fates. She spoke in rapid Comanche, her voice low. "White Dove, there is trouble brewing. The council meets at sundown to choose the new chief. Many support Kicking Wolf, but Red Hawk's faction grows bold. They whisper that Kicking Wolf is too young, too influenced by new ideas. They say he would seek peace with the white soldiers when war is the only path." Sarah's hands stilled on the cornmeal. "What will happen?" Running Stream glanced around before answering. "Red Hawk has the support of the most aggressive warriors. They remember the old days, the great raids, the freedom we once knew. They blame Kicking Wolf's counsel to Iron Bear for our recent caution. They say his influence made Iron Bear weak, that this is why he fell to the white man's bullets." Sarah felt a chill despite the heat. She knew Red Hawk by reputation. He was ruthless, driven by hatred for the white settlers who had pushed into Comanche lands. If he became chief, he would lead the tribe into conflicts they could not win, would see her as an enemy within their midst. But more than her own safety, she worried about what Red Hawk's leadership would mean for these people she had come to care for, and for Kicking Wolf specifically. "Does Kicking Wolf know the extent of the opposition?" Sarah asked carefully. Running Stream shook her head slowly. "He knows there is disagreement, but I fear he does not understand how deep the conspiracy runs. Red Hawk has been careful, gathering support in shadows. Some of the younger warriors who once followed Kicking Wolf have been swayed by promises of glory and war spoils." Sarah's mind raced. In her years with the tribe, she had observed the complex political dynamics that governed their decisions. She had seen how alliances shifted, how ambition could corrupt, how the desperate desire to preserve their way of life could lead to disastrous choices. She had also come to understand that Kicking Wolf, for all his strength and intelligence, possessed a warrior's directness. He valued honor and expected others to act with similar integrity. It was both his greatest strength and his potential downfall. The afternoon sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and crimson. Warriors gathered in small groups, their faces serious as they discussed the coming council meeting. Sarah continued her tasks, but her attention remained focused on the central area where the council would convene. As evening approached, she saw Kicking Wolf emerge from his teepee. He wore his finest buckskin shirt, decorated with intricate beadwork and scalp locks from enemies defeated in battle. His bearing was proud, his movements confident. But Sarah saw something in his eyes, a flicker of uncertainty perhaps, or contemplation of the heavy responsibility that might soon rest on his shoulders. Their eyes met across the camp. For a long moment they held each other's gaze. Sarah saw recognition there, and something deeper, something that had been growing between them in silence for 3 years. Then Kicking Wolf looked away and moved toward the council circle. Sarah made a decision. The consequences could be severe. Speaking out of turn, interfering in tribal politics, especially as a captive white woman, could result in punishment or worse. But she could not stand by and watch Kicking Wolf walk unknowingly into a trap. Whatever her feelings for him, she knew that his leadership offered the best hope for the tribe's survival, and for a future that might include both the Comanche way of life and some accommodation with the changing world. She waited until the warriors had assembled, until the pipe had been lit and passed, until the formal discussions began. Then she approached the edge of the council circle. The talking stick was being passed between speakers, each stating their preference for the new chief. Several spoke eloquently in favor of Red Hawk, praising his fierceness and his commitment to the old ways. When there was a pause, Sarah stepped forward. The action itself was audacious. Women did not typically speak in council unless invited, and captives never did. Shocked silence fell over the gathering. Red Hawk's face darkened with fury. Several warriors rose to their feet, hands moving toward weapons. But Sarah's eyes were on Kicking Wolf. She spoke clearly in Comanche, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Forgive my intrusion, honored warriors. I know I have no right to speak in this sacred council. But I have information that affects the choice you must make tonight. Information that concerns treachery and deception." The council circle erupted in angry shouts. Warriors jumped to their feet, several reaching for their weapons. Red Hawk's voice rose above the others, harsh and commanding. "This white woman dares to interrupt our sacred council. She should be dragged away and punished for such disrespect." But Kicking Wolf raised his hand, and his voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Wait. Let her speak. If White Dove risks punishment to bring us information, perhaps we should hear what she has to say." Iron Bear trusted her healing skills and her counsel on occasion. I would know what drives her to such boldness. The eldest council member, a wizened warrior named Gray Fox who had seen 70 winters, nodded slowly. "Kicking Wolf speaks wisdom. In all her time among us, White Dove has caused no trouble. She has learned our ways, worked hard, and helped our people. If she breaks custom now, there must be strong reason. Let her speak, but choose your words carefully, White Woman. Your life may depend upon them." Sarah felt the weight of dozens of hostile eyes upon her. Her throat was dry, but she forced herself to stand tall. She had committed to this course, and there was no turning back. She looked directly at Kicking Wolf as she spoke, though her words were meant for all. 3 days ago, I was gathering firewood near the creek when I overheard voices. I recognized Red Hawk and 2 of his closest warriors, Standing Bear and Black Snake. They spoke of tonight's council and their plans to ensure Red Hawk becomes chief. Red Hawk surged forward, his face twisted with rage. "Lies! This white devil seeks to poison our council with false accusations. She invents stories to serve her own purposes." "Let her finish," Gray Fox commanded, his ancient voice carrying authority that even Red Hawk could not ignore. Sarah continued, her heart pounding but her voice growing stronger. Red Hawk spoke of how he had convinced several young warriors that Kicking Wolf's counsel had made Iron Bear weak, that this led to his death. But that was not all. They discussed their true plan. Once Red Hawk becomes chief, he intends to lead a massive raid against Fort Richardson within 2 weeks. He has promised his followers great spoils and glory. Murmurs rippled through the assembled warriors. Sarah pressed on, knowing she had to reveal everything now. But Red Hawk knows this raid will fail. He has already sent word to the fort through a Mexican trader named Sanchez, informing the soldiers of the planned attack. Red Hawk intends for many warriors to die in this raid, specifically those who currently support Kicking Wolf. With them dead, Red Hawk's power will be absolute, and he can claim their deaths prove that the spirits favor his leadership. The council circle exploded into chaos. Warriors shouted accusations and denials. Some drew weapons. Red Hawk's face had gone from red to pale, his eyes wild with fury and fear. He pointed a shaking finger at Sarah. "She lies. This is a desperate invention by Kicking Wolf's supporters. Why would I betray my own people? I who have fought the white man all my life." Kicking Wolf stood, his imposing figure commanding attention. His voice was cold as winter ice. "If White Dove speaks falsely, she knows she will die. No one would risk such accusations without proof or certainty. I know her character. She is not reckless or foolish. Red Hawk, if you are innocent, you will welcome investigation of these claims." Sarah reached into the pouch at her waist and withdrew a small piece of cloth. "This is not all I know. When I heard their conversation, I followed at a distance. I saw Red Hawk meet with the Mexican trader Sanchez at the old Buffalo Wallow north of camp. They did not see me in the rocks above. Red Hawk gave Sanchez a pouch of silver coins and this scarf as a sign of good faith. The scarf belonged to Iron Bear's wife, taken from Red Hawk's own teepee. I retrieved it after they left." She held up the distinctive red and blue woven scarf that everyone recognized. It had been Iron Bear's most treasured possession, a gift from his beloved wife before she died. The fact that Red Hawk possessed it, and had given it to a white trader, was damning evidence of both theft and betrayal. Red Hawk's hand moved to his knife. "Enough of these lies. I will silence this white witch permanently." He lunged toward Sarah, his blade flashing in the firelight. But Kicking Wolf moved with the speed of a striking snake. He intercepted Red Hawk, catching his wrist and twisting it sharply. The knife fell to the ground. The 2 warriors stood locked together, muscles straining, eyes burning with intensity. "If you are innocent, why do you attack rather than defend yourself with words?" Kicking Wolf demanded. "Why does an innocent man resort to murder when accused?" Gray Fox stood, his voice cracking like thunder despite his age. "Enough. Red Hawk, you will submit to questioning. Standing Bear and Black Snake will also be brought before the council. Guards, secure these 3 until we can investigate White Dove's claims fully." Several warriors moved forward, but Red Hawk's supporters formed a protective circle around him. Standing Bear, a massive warrior with a scarred chest, drew his tomahawk. Black Snake notched an arrow to his bow. The camp teetered on the edge of violence, Comanche against Comanche, a fracture that could destroy them all. "Stop!" Kicking Wolf's voice rang out with such authority that even the most aggressive warriors paused. "We cannot fight among ourselves. This is exactly what our enemies want. Whether White Dove speaks truth or lies, we must know with certainty. I propose a test." He released Red Hawk and stepped back, his hand still ready near his own weapon. "Let us send scouts to find this traitor Sanchez. Let us also send warriors to Fort Richardson to observe if they prepare for an attack. If the fort shows unusual readiness, as if they expect an assault, we will know someone has warned them. Let us search Red Hawk's teepee for other items that belong to Iron Bear. The truth will reveal itself." Red Hawk's eyes darted frantically, calculating his options. His supporters remained tense, weapons ready, but uncertainty had crept into their expressions. The logic of Kicking Wolf's proposal was sound, and resistance to such reasonable investigation would only deepen suspicion. Gray Fox nodded approvingly. "Wisdom speaks through Kicking Wolf. This is the path we will follow. Until the investigation is complete, Red Hawk will remain in camp under watch, but he will not be imprisoned. Standing Bear and Black Snake as well. If White Dove has spoken falsely, she will face the most severe punishment. If she speaks truth, then Red Hawk and his conspirators will answer for their treachery." The old warrior's gaze swept across the assembled council. "We postpone the selection of our new chief until these matters are resolved. The tribe cannot afford to choose wrongly in such dangerous times." As the council dispersed, Sarah felt her legs tremble with the release of tension. She had gambled everything on this moment, and the outcome remained uncertain. If the scouts found nothing, if Sanchez had already fled, or if the fort showed no special preparations, her accusations would seem like lies. She would die, probably painfully. She turned to leave, to return to the relative safety of Running Stream's teepee, but a strong hand caught her arm. She looked up into Kicking Wolf's dark eyes. Up close, she could see the gold flecks in them, could smell the sage and leather scent that clung to his skin. "Why did you do this?" he asked quietly in English. She had not known he spoke her language. "You risked your life to warn me. Why?" Sarah met his gaze steadily, though her heart raced for entirely different reasons now. "Because this tribe has been my home for 3 years. Because Running Stream and others have shown me kindness. Because I have seen what men like Red Hawk do when they gain power, and I could not stand by and watch it happen." "That is not the only reason," Kicking Wolf said softly. His thumb traced a gentle circle on her wrist where he still held her arm. "I have watched you, White Dove. For 3 years I have watched you grow strong and beautiful, adapting to our ways while keeping your spirit intact. I have brought you meat and furs, finding excuses to be near you, hoping you might understand my intentions." Sarah's breath caught. "I understood," she whispered. "I have watched you too. I have seen your strength and your wisdom, your kindness hidden beneath the warrior's mask. I have hoped, though I dared not believe, that you might feel as I do. If the investigation proves your words true, if I become chief," Kicking Wolf said, his voice intense with emotion, "I will take you as my wife, if you will have me. Not as a captive, but as my chosen woman, my equal partner. You have proven today that you have the courage and intelligence worthy of a chief's wife. You have risked everything for the good of the tribe. There is no greater honor." Before Sarah could respond, Running Stream appeared at her elbow, her weathered face creased with concern. "Come, White Dove. You must rest and prepare yourself. The next days will be difficult, and you will need your strength." Kicking Wolf released Sarah's arm reluctantly. "I will send warriors I trust to guard you. Red Hawk's supporters may attempt revenge before the truth is known. You will be protected." Sarah nodded, unable to find words for the storm of emotions swirling within her. As Running Stream led her away, she glanced back once to see Kicking Wolf standing in the firelight, his tall figure radiating strength and determination. Whatever came next, she knew that her life had changed forever in that council circle. The night passed slowly, True to his word, Kicking Wolf posted 2 trusted warriors outside Running Stream's teepee. Sarah lay awake on her buffalo robe, listening to the sounds of the camp, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake or the best decision of her life. She thought of her family back in Missouri, lost to her now for years. She thought of the girl she had been and the woman she had become. And she thought of Kicking Wolf, of the possibility of a future she had never dared imagine. As dawn broke over the Texas plains, scouts rode out in multiple directions. Some headed north to find Sanchez, others east toward Fort Richardson, and still others to search for any evidence of Red Hawk's conspiracy. The entire camp held its breath, waiting for answers that would determine not just Sarah's fate, but the future direction of their tribe. 3 days passed like 3 lifetimes. Sarah remained in Running Stream's teepee under constant guard, venturing out only for necessary tasks and always accompanied by Kicking Wolf's trusted warriors. The camp existed in a state of suspended tension, divided between those who believed her accusations and those who saw her as a treacherous white woman sowing discord among the people. Red Hawk moved freely, but remained under watch. His supporters gathered around him in shows of solidarity, but Sarah noticed that their numbers seemed to diminish each day. Doubt was a powerful poison, and once introduced, it spread through whispered conversations and sidelong glances. On the morning of the 4th day, the scouts began returning. The first group arrived just after dawn, their horses lathered with sweat from hard riding. The warrior leading them, a respected tracker named Swift Arrow, went directly to Gray Fox and the council elders. Within an hour, the entire tribe was summoned to the council circle. Sarah's guards escorted her to the gathering, where she stood near the edge, acutely aware of the hostile stares from Red Hawk's remaining supporters. Kicking Wolf stood across the circle, his face impassive but his eyes finding hers, offering silent strength and reassurance. Gray Fox raised his hand for silence. Swift Arrow and his scouts have returned from Fort Richardson. Let him speak of what they found. Swift Arrow stepped forward, his expression grim. We observed the fort from the hills for 2 days and nights. The white soldiers are preparing for battle. They have reinforced their walls, positioned extra sentries, and gathered their cavalry in the main compound. We saw supply wagons arrive with additional ammunition and weapons. The fort commander held multiple meetings with his officers, and we observed them studying maps and pointing toward our territory. They are expecting an attack, and they are ready for it. Murmurs of shock and anger rippled through the assembled tribe. Eyes turned toward Red Hawk, whose face had gone pale beneath his bronze skin, but he drew himself up defiantly. This proves nothing. The white soldiers are always preparing for war against us. They fear our strength and our resolve. Let Swift Arrow finish, Gray Fox commanded. The scout continued. We also found tracks leading from our territory to a meeting place 5 miles from the fort. 2 horses, one shod like the white man's horses, one unshod like ours. The tracks showed they met, waited for perhaps an hour, then separated. The white man's horse went to the fort. We followed the other tracks back toward our camp. They led to the place where Red Hawk keeps his personal horses. Before Red Hawk could respond, another group of scouts emerged from the crowd. Their leader, a young but capable warrior named Running Elk, bowed to the council. Honored elders, we tracked the traitor Sanchez for 3 days. We found him camped near the Brazos River, preparing to travel south into Mexico. We took him captive and brought him back. He waits beyond the camp now with our warriors. Gray Fox's ancient eyes gleamed with cold fire. Bring him forward. 4 warriors dragged a terrified Mexican man into the circle. Sanchez was middle-aged, his clothes dusty from travel, his face bruised from rough handling by his captors. They forced him to his knees before the council. He looked around frantically, his eyes widening when he saw Red Hawk. Kicking Wolf stepped forward and addressed the traitor in Spanish, which he spoke fluently. Sarah understood enough to follow the conversation. You know why you are here, traitor. Your life depends on speaking the truth. Did you meet with Red Hawk? Sanchez's eyes darted between Kicking Wolf and Red Hawk. Terror and calculation warred on his features. Finally, survival instinct won over whatever loyalty he might have felt. Yes, I met with him 3 times over the past moon. He paid me in silver and goods to carry messages to the fort commander. He told me when the Comanche would attack, How many warriors, which direction they would come from. He said this would allow him to eliminate his rivals and consolidate his power. He promised me more silver after the raid failed, and his enemies were dead. The council circle erupted in furious shouts. Warriors surged toward Red Hawk, weapons drawn. Red Hawk's remaining supporters drew their own weapons, but they were vastly outnumbered now. The evidence was overwhelming. The betrayal undeniable. "Wait!" Gray Fox's voice somehow cut through the chaos. "There is more to hear. Search Red Hawk's teepee. Bring everything you find." Several warriors rushed to comply. They returned moments later carrying bundles wrapped in hide. When opened before the council, they revealed silver coins of American mint, far more than any warrior should possess through legitimate trading. Personal items that had belonged to Iron Bear, including his ceremonial pipe and a necklace of bear claws he had worn in battle. And most damning of all, a letter written in English detailing the planned raid, the number of warriors, and the proposed attack date, clearly intended for the fort commander. Red Hawk's face twisted with rage and desperation. He suddenly drew his knife and lunged not at the council, but at Sarah. His movement was swift and unexpected, driven by the fury of a cornered animal. He covered the distance between them in seconds, his blade aimed at her heart, murder and revenge blazing in his eyes. But Kicking Wolf was faster. He had positioned himself to protect Sarah, anticipating exactly such an attack. He intercepted Red Hawk, catching his knife arm and driving his own blade upward in one fluid motion. The fight was brief and brutal. Red Hawk, weakened by days of stress and fear, was no match for Kicking Wolf's strength and skill. Within moments, Red Hawk lay on the ground, Kicking Wolf's knife at his throat. "You betrayed your people," Kicking Wolf said, his voice heavy with disgust and sorrow. "You would have led our warriors to their deaths to satisfy your ambition. You stole from our fallen chief and sold our secrets to our enemies. And you tried to murder a woman under the tribe's protection. What do you have to say?" Red Hawk spat blood and defiance. "I did what I had to do. You and Iron Bear were leading us to weakness and extinction with your talk of peace and accommodation. The old ways are dying and you help kill them. I would have made us strong again, would have restored our glory. You would have destroyed us," Gray Fox said sadly. "Strength without wisdom is merely violence. Glory without honor is merely vanity. You have shamed yourself and dishonored your ancestors." The old warrior looked to the council. "What is the judgment?" The verdict was unanimous. Red Hawk, Standing Bear, and Black Snake, who had also confessed under questioning, were banished from the tribe. In Comanche culture, this was a fate worse than death. To be cut off from one's people, to wander alone without the protection and support of the tribe, was to become less than human, a ghost walking among the living. The three conspirators were stripped of their weapons, their horses, and all possessions except the clothes they wore. They were given one day's food and water, and driven from the camp with warnings never to return. As they disappeared into the vast Texas plains, Sarah felt no triumph, only sadness at the waste of it all. With the conspiracy exposed and justice served, the council reconvened that evening to select the new chief. This time, there was little debate. Kicking Wolf had demonstrated wisdom, courage, and loyalty. He had protected the tribe from internal treachery and had shown the judgment necessary to lead them through difficult times. When Gray Fox called for the vote, it was nearly unanimous. As the sun set over the plains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, Kicking Wolf was formally acknowledged as the new chief. Eagle feathers were woven into his hair, and Iron Bear's ceremonial staff was placed in his hands. He stood before his people tall and proud, and spoke of the challenges ahead. "We live in changing times," he said, his voice carrying across the assembled tribe. "The old ways are not gone, but we must adapt to survive. We will defend our lands and our freedom, but we will also seek wisdom in choosing our battles. We will honor our ancestors by ensuring our children have a future. This I promise as your chief." The tribe erupted in cheers and celebration. Drums began to beat, and fires were built high as the people gathered to feast and dance in honor of their new leader. But Kicking Wolf raised his hand for one more announcement. "There is another matter I wish to address before we celebrate. White Dove risked her life to save this tribe from treachery. She has lived among us for 3 years. has learned our ways, has proven her loyalty and courage beyond any doubt. I ask the council and the people, should she continue to live as a captive, or should she be adopted fully into the tribe as one of our own? Gray Fox smiled, his weathered face creasing with approval. Any who have watched White Dove know she has already become one of us in all but name. I say we adopt her formally, give her all the rights and privileges of a true Comanche woman. The council agreed unanimously, and the people cheered their approval. Running Stream came forward with tears of joy streaming down her face, embracing Sarah as the daughter she had never had. But Kicking Wolf was not finished. He approached Sarah, his dark eyes intense with emotion and purpose. He took her hands in his, and the camp fell silent, watching with keen interest. White Dove, you have my deepest gratitude and respect, but I want to offer you more than adoption into the tribe. I want to offer you my heart, my protection, and my devotion for all the days of our lives. Will you consent to become my wife, to stand beside me as I lead our people, to share my teepee and my life? Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of joy and relief and overwhelming happiness. She had lost one life and found another. She had been a captive and become free in ways she had never imagined. She had found love in the most unexpected place, with a man who saw her true worth and valued her strength. Yes, she said, her voice clear and strong. I will be your wife, Kicking Wolf. I will stand beside you, support you, and love you with all my heart. My old life is gone, but this new life, with you and with this tribe, is more than I ever dreamed possible. The camp erupted in celebration once more. The drums beat faster, the fires burned brighter, and the people danced and sang late into the night. Running Stream immediately began preparations for the wedding ceremony, which would take place in 3 days according to Comanche custom. Those 3 days passed in a blur of activity and joy. Sarah was given a new buckskin dress, elaborately decorated with beads and quill work by the women of the tribe. Her hair was washed with yucca root and adorned with flowers and feathers. Kicking Wolf prepared gifts for her, including a beautiful painted horse, new cooking pots, and a supply of the finest buffalo robes. On the day of the ceremony, the entire tribe gathered as the sun rose over the plains. Gray Fox performed the traditional rituals, binding Sarah's and Kicking Wolf's hands together with a braided cord while speaking blessings in the ancient language. They exchanged vows of loyalty, love, and mutual support. When the ceremony concluded, they were declared husband and wife before their people. That night in Kicking Wolf's teepee, now their shared home, they sat together by the fire. Sarah rested against her husband's strong chest, his arms wrapped protectively around her. Outside, they could hear the sounds of the camp settling for the night, the low conversations, the crying of babies, the barking of dogs, all the normal sounds of life continuing. Do you have regrets? Kicking Wolf asked quietly, his lips close to her ear. Do you mourn your old life, your people back in Missouri? Sarah considered the question carefully. I mourn my family, and I hope they found peace after the raid. But regrets? No. That girl who was captured 3 years ago was scared and lost. The woman I am now is stronger, braver, and more alive than she ever was before. I have found purpose and love, and a home. I have found you. Kicking Wolf tightened his embrace. I will protect you and cherish you all my days. Together, we will lead our people through whatever challenges come. Your courage saved us from Red Hawk's treachery. Your wisdom will help guide us in the difficult times ahead. And your strength will be our shield, Sarah replied. Your vision will light our path. Together we will build a future for our people. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire cast dancing shadows on the teepee walls. Outside, the Texas plains stretched endlessly under a canopy of stars. The future remained uncertain, filled with challenges and dangers. The conflict between the Comanche and the expanding white civilization would continue, and difficult choices lay ahead. But in that moment, Sarah and Kicking Wolf had found something precious and rare: true love, mutual respect, and partnership. They had found each other across the divide of two worlds, and together they would face whatever came with courage, wisdom, and unwavering devotion. The white woman who had been captured 3 years ago no longer existed. In her place stood White Dove, wife of the chief, a bridge between two worlds, a woman who had found her true home and her true love among the Comanche people of the Texas plains. And as she drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, she knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be.